Every time we go down there, it seems like God puts somebody in front of you every year. There's someone different, and I've been there so many years. But two stand out in my mind. One was a little young man named Heriberto who had lost his leg in an accident, and I had gone down there and shown him some exercises to get him ready for prosthesis. Unfortunately, he didn't have prosthesis, so when I came home, I went and found somebody to donate a prosthesis for him, got it mailed down to Antigua, Guatemala, and the next year when I went down, I was able to see him walking, and he was working in the wheelchair shop. And so he was one. And then there was another little boy, probably my second or third year when I was down there, cerebral palsy little boy who didn't walk much. He spent most of his time in the cribs there, and we got him a backwards walker, and he was able to walk around and run, basically, sort of run. But anyway, the smile on his face said it all. It was awesome. It compounds every year. I've been 10 trips, so it's kind of a compilation of things. But the smiles, the smiles of the people, the smiles of the mothers when their babies' cleft lips get repaired, the smile of the man who could go back to work because his colon got repaired, the smile of the little man who finally could walk again because we gave him some crutches. It's the smiles.
Before I brought the message on Thursday, we were having our worship time, and I know that a weakness of mine is that I want glory for myself. I want to be recognized. I want people to say, wow, Rob did an excellent job. And my prayer for that day and before that time and everything was, God, please don't let me do this for me. Let me do this for you. Let me serve you in every single way possible. I remember praying that specifically. I remember praying that with the pastor, missionary, David, who's over there. And then I remember praying it just while we were singing. And I just remember while we were singing, like, I had God come on me in a way I had never felt him before. I knew God was going to act. I just didn't know to the extent that which he would act. Like, in my prayer, I've been saying, all right, God, just give us lots and lots of people. That's what I really, really want. I think let's just spread the gospel to as many people as possible and see what we can do with that. But, he surprised me by saying, well, actually, I'm going to do this plan. You're praying a great prayer, but I'm actually going to do this plan, and I'm going to set things up my way, and you'll see that they work out better.
Okay, there's this guy at the women's shelter that had devoted his life to helping these women at the shelter. He was there on call every night. He would go there and then wee hours in the morning, fix toilets, help people do whatever they need to do. And it was just awesome because his whole life was devoted to these women and to helping and serving through God. It was really cool. He was a really godly man. Well, it probably was the teamwork that came through the working in the preschool center, because there we everyone split off and expressed their own creativity on the walls and the floors and the ceilings. You can really see God's gifts coming through, the leadership, the creativity, the artists, the speakers, and everything through the people that were speaking to us, commanding us, telling us what to do, but also how we work together as a group to use our creativity together. It was really cool, the things that came out of that.
I met a lot of people in Kenya, and the people were very friendly and very welcoming. The girls were amazing, and I loved them, but somebody that really stands out in my mind was our driver, David. He's a matatu driver. That's his profession, so he drives around in a van carrying tons of people that hop on and hop off and doesn't really stop. That's his profession while we're not there, but when teams come in, the school hires him, and he takes care of us, and he was just an amazing man. He was very welcoming, always excited to see us. He taught me Swahili. The girls don't really have male figures in their lives. They have house moms and people that help them, but not really a strong man. And when he's around, you can just see how much he loves them and how much they love him. And he's somebody that I definitely won't forget.
One of the most humbling experiences was going to the Bible school in the Northwest, where these pastors, there was about 15 pastors there at the time from Northwest Uganda and Congo, and these are not pastors like we think of who are employed by the church. They're just Christian leaders who have taken on the role of pastor, but they still have to plant all their own food, get all their own water, provide for their families in any way they can, very rural villages. And it was extremely humble to stand before these men and teach some theology, teach some things that we had been taught about the Bible because they were sacrificing so much to be there. They were in no way as educated as some of our high school seniors, just because of their villages. There's no schools. They were taught primarily by their mother, and so, but their desire to serve the Lord and the fact they would give up so much in order to go and study the Bible, to be there from Monday to Friday when they really could and should be getting food and doing whatever they can to get money for their family, but they're willing to sacrifice that and really trust God to provide for them while they study the Bible. The experience of standing before a group of men, most of them in their 40s, who really believe that God's Word is life-giving, and that they are willing to give up so much so that their village can have someone who knows the Bible better in order to bring that life back. It's an extremely humbling thing, and it's such a risk on their part. So to kind of be around them was really eye-opening.
I met an amazing little boy. His name was Jinjin, and I actually met him in the government-run welfare center right next to the International China one, because our team was so large that they had to put some of us where in the government-ran one. So the conditions were horrible, way worse than at the ICC orphanage. And I met Jinjin. He was in the back room on a potty chair, just sitting there real lifeless. And when I met him, I noticed he couldn't really walk real well, didn't talk, couldn't really stand, just very lifeless. And I found out that when he got there in January, he could talk, run around, like make noise. And because he was so active and the caretakers didn't know what to do with him, they just tied him down to the potty chair. And by the time in May, he lost all of that ability. And so I worked with him all week just to get him to stand and just to walk to me. And he finally did. And just to have him walk to me and then lay against me, like, it was the best thing ever. And it was the greatest connection. And to see the little life come back in his eyes, it was a beautiful experience. I'll definitely remember Jinjin the most. Just the way he started to form again and become back to life. And also really remember the way, like, just seeing the scars on his arm from being tied down and the burn marks on his leg from hot water being poured on him, just the pain that they have gone through, and that they're still, alive, and that they just want to be loved. Just to have that memory of him being happy when I loved on him was definitely the one thing I will remember the most.
There's one thing that I guess I can't talk about Moldova without telling this story. It's when we went to the first day camp, which is where they put the children that are orphans in the summer because they closed the orphanages. And so when we went to the first one, which was a lot of children that were developmentally delayed, we were going to take a guitar player with us, and his name was Robert. And we picked him up in a small town in Moldova, and I can't tell you where it was, and as he came walking to the car, I looked at him and I thought, oh my goodness, he had his guitar and he looked to be about 12 years old. But as he got in the car, I could tell by his face and his features that he was much older. And so he got in and he just had the biggest smile and he was so sweet. And he told us he was 18 and he wanted to be a Baptist. He was going to the Baptist academy there to become a missionary. And so he was speaking English, which he had picked up in 1 year at the Baptist seminary. And so after we went in and we came out, this one was very emotional because of the needs of the children, and it was our first one. And so we were in the van, and Pat was sitting in front of me, and she was crying, and I was crying with our smiles as we're waving goodbye, but the tears were going down our face, which we could have just held them till we got in the van. And as we started driving, Robert tapped me on the shoulder and he said, Miss Carolyn, why is Miss Pat crying? And so I said, Pat, would you please tell Robert why you're crying? And she turned around and she said, Robert, I'm crying because I just think all children should have families, and it just hurts me to see these children alone with no family, and it just makes me sad. And he put one hand on me and one hand on Pat, and he said, "Oh, don't cry, don't cry." And now he realized I was crying too, and he said, "Don't cry, don't you know? God has a plan for us. It's not about what we experience here on earth. God has a plan for us." And Pat and I were just like, here we've come to minister to these people, and here this young 18-year-old boy was giving us comfort.